Hello learners, I am Dr. Arun Kumar, faculty member, School of Management, Shastra Deemed University. Today, in this session, I am going to talk about qualitative data analysis. So let's understand what is qualitative data analysis. By the way, what is qualitative data? And hope you know what is quantitative data. Quantitative data is something to do with the numbers, correct? So here, qualitative data can be observed, and it is nothing to do with the numbers. As I said, the quantitative data is something to do with the number, but qualitative data is not. So what happens in qualitative data? If you look at qualitative data, can be observed and recorded. This type is non-numerical in nature. We all know that. This type of data is collected through methods of observations and one-to-one interviews, conducting focus groups, and similar methods we can collect data. Qualitative data in statistics especially is also known as categorical data, data that can be arranged categorically based on the attributes and properties of a thing or a phenomenon. Moving further, when you talk about qualitative data, I think we can take examples here. So, like interview notes, transcripts of focus groups, and answers to open-ended question, transcription of video recording, accounts of experiences with the product on the internet, news articles, and the etc. We call it as we can code examples in qualitative data. So basically, qualitative data in the form of words, we call it as qualitative data. So let's take more examples. Like as I said, one-to-one interviews. We can conduct one-to-one interview. We would have witnessed that if you do some kind of personal interview with one other person, then it is called some kind of information you are getting for your research. This we call it as qualitative data. And also for you call 5 to 6 members and observe their discussions, this which we call it as focus groups. And record keeping, some kind of records we maintain about any kind of transactions, that it is called record keeping. And when you look at the process of observation, for example, how the customer behave in the front line with the frontline employees as a researcher, if you keep on observing them, or in a retail supermarket, how the customers are reacting towards the merchandise displayed. This we call it as a process of observation that comes under qualitative data. And also longitudinal studies, like from the same data source, a different time, if you collect data, then those kind of information is called longitudinal studies. And about the case studies, we all know what is the case study. A current contemporary problem or problem happened, which by analyzing that we get insight to resolve a current problem, is called a case study. So these kind of informations collected through this, we call it as qualitative data. So in doing an analysis of qualitative data, the analysis of qualitative data is aimed at making inferences from the often overwhelming amount of collected data. And we have three steps here. One is data redaction, and the other one is data display, and the other one is drawing and verifying conclusions. Okay, now let us go in detail in understanding about data redaction, data display, and drawing and verifying conclusions. So let's talk about what is the data redaction. So in data redaction, what we do in qualitative data analysis, we try to code it. The analytical process through which the qualitative data that you have gathered are reduced, rearranged, and integrated to form theory that by means of coding the responses, so through the which we try to, reduce the data and the amount of data by doing coding, and also by the process of categorization. What we do in categorization is nothing but we try to organize the process of organizing and arranging and classifying the coded units into an understandable format is called categorization. And when you talk about data display, taking your reduced data and displaying them in an organized and condensed manner for better understanding is called data display. And we can quote examples here like charts, matrices, diagrams, graph, frequently mentioned phrases and drawings. All that is trying to make the researcher understand in a better way. That is called data display. And finally we have drawing conclusions of that. At this point, where you answer your research question by determining what identified themes stand for, or by thinking about explanations for the observed patterns and a relationship, or by making contrast and comparisons. This we call it as drawing conclusions. And moving further, let's talk about the reliability in qualitative research. So in case of reliability in qualitative research, we have checked two types of reliability. One is category reliability, and the other one is interjudge reliability. Let us see what is category reliability and interjudge reliability. So if you take in case of category reliability, it depends on the analyst's ability to formulate categories and present to competent judges and definitions of the categories. So they will agree on which item of certain population belong in a category and which do not. So this we call it as category reliability. Basically, we try to categorize the content and information here and try to show to the best experts whether this belongs to this category or not. We are confirming with them. That exercise is called category reliability. And next one is we talk about interjudge reliability. Can be defined the degree of consistency between coders processing the same data. So every time if they show consistency without any kind of error as a coder, then it is called the interjudge reliability. Basically, it is about degree of consistency between coders processing the same data. Now let us look at the validity in qualitative research. So what is validity in qualitative research? Validity refers to the extent to which the qualitative research results basically accurately represent the collected data. If it is accurately representing the collected data, then that kind of validity we call it as internal validity. And one more thing is that can be generalized or transferred to the other context or settings. It is called external validity. So that's about validity in qualitative research. So let's look at the advantages of qualitative data. So if you look at the advantages of qualitative data give the researcher more insight. It helps in depth analysis, because what happens, a detailed analysis of the subject matters happen in qualitative data. So as a researcher, while collecting qualitative data, the researcher is trying to tend to probe the participants so that he gives more information and can gather ample information by asking the right kind of questions to the respondent from a series of questions and answer. The data that is collected is used to conclude. And the next aspect, next advantage of qualitative data is that we try to understand what customers think. So qualitative data helps the market researchers to understand the mindset of their customers. The use of qualitative data give businesses an insight into why a customer purchased a product. Understanding customer language helps market research to infer the data collected more systematically. And also one more advantages of qualitative data is that the data collected can be used to conduct research in future as well. And also, since the questions asked to collect qualitative data are open-ended questions, respondents are free to express their opinion, leading to more information. So, as an interviewer or as a researcher, you can collect more in-depth information in case of qualitative data. So the three advantages of qualitative data is that it helps in in-depth analysis. It helps us to understand what customers think, and also it provides rich data. So in case of time consuming, as collecting qualitative data is more time consuming, fewer people are studying in comparison to collecting quantitative data unless time and budget allow a smaller sample size is included. So the main disadvantages of qualitative data is that it is time consuming, and also it is not easy to generalize. Since fewer people are studied, it is difficult to generalize the results of that population. So that is the main disadvantages of having qualitative data. And dependent on the researcher's skill. If you look at the disadvantages of qualitative data, the dependent on the researcher's skill, it is very much required. This type of data is collected through basically one-to-one interviews, observations, focus group, etc. So basically here it relies on the researcher's skills, because in order you need to have the probing skill to collect more information from the respondent, and also you should have an expertise and experience to collect information from the sample. So these are the disadvantages of qualitative data. Hope you have understood the concept of qualitative data, and we understood the definition of qualitative data, and we have seen a lot of examples on that, and also we saw how to analyze qualitative data. There are 3 steps in analyzing the qualitative data. One is the data reduction, data display, drawing and verifying, and conclusions. And finally, we also talk about the reliability in qualitative research. We can talk about category reliability, interchange reliability, and so there are disadvantages, such as we'd also discussed about disadvantages: time consuming, not easy to generalize, dependent on the researcher's skills, and also there is advantages. It helps in in-depth analysis, understand what customers think, rich in data. So these are the things we have discussed under the context of qualitative data. Hope I give you fundamental clarity in understanding what is qualitative data analysis. Thank you.